I never planned to reveal my success at a startup pitch meeting, but my cousin's arrogance left me no choice. The annual Thompson family reunion was always an exercise in enduring condescension, but this year's gathering took things to a new level. "Still playing with your little website, Alex?" My cousin Michael's voice dripped with mock concern as he adjusted his Rolex. A fake, though he'd never admit it. Must be nice having such a flexible schedule. We were gathered in my parents' sprawling backyard, the late summer air heavy with the scent of barbecue and unspoken judgments. Around us, the successful members of the family traded stories about their corporate achievements and country club memberships. "Something like that," I replied, taking a sip of my drink to hide my smile. If they only knew that my little website had evolved into Nova Digital, one of the most successful venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. But I'd kept that information carefully hidden, operating through holding companies and maintaining a low public profile. "You know," Michael's brother David chimed in, "there's an opening at my firm. Entry-level of course, but it's a real job. With benefits." He emphasized real, as if I'd spent the last 5 years playing video games instead of building a billion-dollar company. I glanced at my watch, a modest Timex that probably cost less than David's tie clip. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could buy his entire firm without denting my bank account. "Thanks, but I'm good with my current situation." "Current situation?" Michael's wife Jessica joined our circle, designer handbag swinging from her arm. "Is that what we're calling unemployment these days?" If only they knew about the meeting I'd had that morning, where I'd approved a $50 million investment in an emerging AI company. Instead, I just shrugged, playing the role they'd assigned me, the underachieving cousin who couldn't handle the real business world. "Leave him alone," my Aunt Patricia called from her seat near the grill. "Not everyone is cut out for success. At least he's not asking us for money anymore." That drew knowing laughs from the gathered family members. 5 years ago, I'd approached them about investing in my startup. They'd not only refused but had turned it into a running joke. The foolish cousin who thought he could make it in tech. "Remember when he wanted us to invest?" David snickered. "What was it, 50,000? Said it would be the opportunity of a lifetime. Best decision we ever made, saying no to that nonsense." Michael agreed. "I put that money into my boat instead. Something real, you know." I remembered that day clearly. They'd laughed me out of the room, telling me to grow up and get a real job. Instead, I'd taken my savings, lived on ramen noodles for a year, and built Nova Digital from the ground up. Now we were the ones other startups begged to invest in them. "Speaking of investments," David leaned in, his voice dropping conspiratorially, "Michael and I have been working on something big. Tech startup. Revolutionary stuff." I raised an eyebrow, suddenly interested. "Oh, yeah, we've got this amazing idea for an app." Michael jumped in. "We're actually pitching to some venture capital firms next week. Nova Digital is at the top of our list. Heard they're the best in the business." I nearly choked on my drink. They had no idea that I was the founder and CEO of Nova Digital, the very firm they were hoping would fund their venture. "Nova Digital?" I kept my voice casual. "Impressive. They're pretty selective though." "Please." Michael waved his hand dismissively. "Our idea is incredible. They'd be idiots not to invest. Besides, my friend knows a guy who knows someone on their board. It's practically a done deal." Jessica nodded enthusiastically. They'd be lucky to work with real business people like Michael and David, not amateur hour website builders. He shot me a pointed look. I pulled out my phone, pretending to check messages while actually sending a quick text to my assistant. "Check tomorrow's pitch schedule. Looking for anything from Michael or David Thompson." The response came back almost immediately. 10 a.m. slot. Thompson Tech Innovations. Requesting 2M seed funding. "What's the matter, Alex?" David smirked. "Checking if anyone's visited your website?" "Just handling some business," I replied mildly. "Business," Michael scoffed. "Is that what we're calling it now?" My phone buzzed again. My assistant had sent their pitch deck, a half-baked idea for a social media app that was essentially a poor copy of 3 existing platforms. Their financial projections were pure fantasy, and their technical specifications showed a fundamental misunderstanding of basic app development. "You know what your problem is, Alex?" Jessica said, warming to her favorite topic, my supposed failures. "You never learned to think big. You're still playing around with websites while real entrepreneurs are out there making things happen. I thought about the 3 unicorn companies Nova Digital had helped launch this year alone, about the billions in successful investments under my management, about the fact that I was speaking at the World Economic Forum next month. Maybe you're right, I said, finishing my drink. Thinking big does seem to run in the family. Exactly. Michael clapped me on the shoulder. Which is why David and I are going to be the next big tech success story. This time next year, we'll probably be too busy with our millions to attend the family reunion. Wouldn't that be something? I mused, already looking forward to tomorrow's pitch meeting. The rest of the reunion passed in a blur of subtle digs and not-so-subtle reminders of my family's definition of success. Uncle Robert proudly announced his son's promotion to middle management. Aunt Patricia showed off pictures of her daughter's new subdivision home. My cousins took turns explaining basic business concepts to me, as if I was a child who needed education. I sat through it all, quietly sipping my drink and thinking about tomorrow. About how all their pretense and pride was about to come crashing down in the most spectacular way possible. Don't forget my offer about that entry-level position, David called out as I was leaving. Never too late to join the real world. I smiled and waved, knowing it would be the last time they'd ever speak to me with such condescension. Tomorrow would change everything. That evening, I reviewed their pitch deck again in my home office, a space larger than their combined houses, though they didn't know that. The more I read, the more amazed I was at their audacity. They had no prototype, no technical co-founder, and their market research consisted entirely of asking their friends if they thought the idea was cool. My assistant called to confirm the meeting details. Should I tell the board not to bother attending? No, I said, a plan forming in my mind. Have everyone there. Full panel. And make sure the cameras are recording. This is going to be an interesting morning. I chose my outfit carefully for the next day, not the designer suits I usually wore to the office, but something more casual. Something that matched what they'd seen me wearing at the reunion. Let them walk in confident, I thought. Let them think they're about to command the room. As I drove to the office the next morning, I received a text from Michael. Wish us luck, cuz. About to crush this pitch at Nova Digital. Not that you'd understand what that means. Face with tears of joy. I showed it to my assistant when I arrived. She raised an eyebrow. They really have no idea, do they? None whatsoever, I confirmed. And that's exactly how I want it. For now. I settled into my chair at the head of the boardroom table, surrounded by some of the most successful venture capitalists in the country. People who trusted my judgment, who respected my expertise, who had helped me build Nova Digital into a powerhouse. Mr. Thompson and Mr. Thompson have arrived, my assistant announced through the intercom. Shall I send them in? I looked around at my board members, all of whom were aware of the situation and eager to watch it unfold. Let's see how big they can really think. Michael and David strode into the boardroom like they already owned it. Their confidence faltered slightly when they saw the full board, 12 of Silicon Valley's most influential investors seated around the massive table. But they quickly recovered, straightening their shoulders and putting on their best business faces. Then they saw me. Alex. Michael's voice cracked. What are you doing here? Did you get a job as an assistant or something? David asked, clearly trying to make sense of my presence at the head of the table. I smiled, letting the moment stretch out uncomfortably. Please, start your presentation. We're all very excited to hear about this revolutionary app. They exchanged confused glances but launched into their pitch. It was painful to watch. Their slides were amateur, their market analysis was fundamentally flawed, and their financial projections were pure fantasy. As you can see, Michael said, pointing to a particularly optimistic graph, we're projecting $50 million in revenue by year 2. Based on what metrics? I asked, my voice neutral. Well, market penetration and user acquisition. David stumbled over the terms he clearly didn't understand. And your technical infrastructure? I pressed. How are you planning to handle that scale? We'll hire the best developers, Michael said confidently. Money is no object once we get your investment. One of my board members, Sarah Chin, couldn't suppress a small laugh. I shot her a look, but I was fighting back a smile myself. Speaking of investment, David said, regaining some of his earlier swagger, we're looking for $2 million in seed funding. A bargain, really, given our growth potential. I see. I leaned forward. And what makes you think Nova Digital would be interested in this investment? Well, Michael puffed up his chest, we're serious businessmen. Not like some people who waste time with little website projects. He threw me what he clearly thought was a sophisticated look of dismissal. That was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. Interesting perspective, I said, standing up slowly. Let me introduce myself properly. I'm Alexander Thompson, founder and CEO of Nova Digital. That little website project you've been mocking? It turned into this company. The one you're so desperately hoping will fund your half-baked app idea. The blood drained from their faces so fast I thought they might faint. That's impossible, David whispered. Is it? I picked up my tablet and projected some figures onto the wall screen. Nova Digital, founded 5 years ago. Current portfolio valued at over $3 billion. Named top venture capital firm by Forbes last month. The same month, coincidentally, that you were bragging about your boat at the family reunion. Michael's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. But you never said anything. Why would I? I shrugged. You were all so convinced you knew everything about success. So certain that your corporate jobs and leased luxury cars made you business experts. Why spoil your illusion? We didn't. David started, but I cut him off. Didn't know? Hurry. Just like you don't know that your app idea is derivative, your market analysis is nonsensical, and your technical understanding is non-existent. The board members were watching with varying degrees of amusement and second-hand embarrassment. Sarah was typing something on her phone, probably adding this to the company's collection of worst pitches ever. But we can learn. Michael said desperately. We're family. Family. I let out a short laugh. Yesterday I was the embarrassing cousin who played with websites. Today I'm family? No, I don't think so. I clicked to the next slide, screenshots of their social media posts mocking my career choices over the years. You see, I keep excellent records. Every dismissive comment, every condescending offer of an entry-level position, every time you used me as an example of failure to warn your kids about. Those were jokes, David protested weakly. Hilarious, I agreed dryly. Almost as funny as your projected user acquisition costs. Did you just make up these numbers or did you use a random number generator? Jessica chose that moment to burst into the room, designer handbag swinging wildly. The receptionist just told me, Alex, you have to. Mrs. Thompson, I nodded politely. Perfect timing. I was just explaining to your husband and brother-in-law why their pitch is being rejected. Rejected? She looked like she might hyperventilate. But your family. Am I? I projected one final screenshot, her Instagram post from last week. So sad to see some people never grow up. Still playing with computers while real adults build careers. Interesting definition of family you have there. That's different, she stammered. We didn't know. And that's exactly the problem, I said, my voice hard. You never bothered to know. You were too busy looking down on me to notice what I was building. Too wrapped up in your pretense of success to recognize actual achievement. I turned to my board members. I apologize for wasting your time with this pitch, though I hope it serves as an excellent example of what not to do in this room. Oh, it definitely will, Sarah assured me, still typing on her phone. This is going straight into our training materials. Michael made one last desperate attempt. Alex, please. We can work something out. Maybe you could mentor us. I sat back down, straightening my papers. I don't think so. You see, Nova Digital only invests in serious entrepreneurs. People who do their homework, understand their market, and most importantly, don't rely on family connections they spent years denying. But what are we supposed to do now? David asked, his voice small. Well, I pretended to think it over. I hear there's an entry-level position open at your firm. With benefits even. Sounds like a real job to me. The security guard appeared at the door, a prearranged signal that this meeting was over. Wait. Jessica called out as they were being ushered out. What about the family reunion next month? I smiled. Oh, I won't be attending. Too busy playing with my little website. But feel free to tell everyone all about your successful pitch meeting at Nova Digital. I'm sure the family would love to hear every detail. After they left, Sarah turned to me. That was ruthless. I love it. Sometimes people need a hard lesson in humility, I said, gathering my things. And speaking of lessons, I have a real pitch to attend. One from entrepreneurs who did their homework. As I walked to my next meeting, my phone buzzed with messages from other family members. Word had spread fast. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know more about my internet job. Funny how success changes people's perspective. I ignored them all. Instead, I sent a company-wide email announcing a new initiative, the Nova Digital Mentorship Program, specifically designed to help entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds who had been dismissed or discouraged by their families. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong, it's making sure others don't face the same dismissal and doubt you did. My assistant caught up with me as I headed to my next meeting. Your Aunt Patricia is in the lobby. Says she needs to speak with you urgently about an amazing investment opportunity. I didn't even break stride. Tell her my schedule is fully booked. Forever. And Rachel, send a fruit basket to Michael and David, with a card that reads, "Thanks for the pitch. Better luck with your next little website project." The next family reunion invitation arrived a month later. I RSVP'd with a short note. Unfortunately, I'll be speaking at the World Economic Forum that weekend. But feel free to check our website for investment opportunities. If you can figure out how websites work, that is. Sometimes success is the best revenge, but occasionally, a little pettiness makes it even sweeter. As I sat in my office that evening, looking out over the city lights, I couldn't help but smile. My little website had grown into something beyond their wildest imaginations, and I'd never have to endure another condescending family gathering again. I opened my laptop to review some actual promising pitches, but paused to send one final email to my cousins. Thank you for today's pitch. While we won't be moving forward with your app idea, I hope you learned something valuable about judging people's potential. And don't worry about paying back that boat loan. I just bought the bank that holds it. Consider it my last contribution to the family. Sometimes the best way to handle people who underestimate you isn't to prove them wrong. It's to let them realize just how wrong they've been all along.